How's that?
That looks good.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the live Q&A for dreams and how to interpret them. We're going to talk about a few different things on the subject today. We are going to give a moment to let people join us. This video will be available for replay.
Hello, people. All right, let's see.
So I am taking a moment to gather my thoughts.
Oh, we're taking a minute to let people join us.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, how are you today?
Hello.
Waiting for my phone to decide it wants to work so I can share the video. Still doesn't want to work.
Sorry, your phone's not working.
Well, you know, it's not.
I guess I can try to share as well. Right. I don't think I need to define what dreams are. I'm sure we all know what a dream is, but we can define some things in relation to this discussion.
Why are dreams important?
Yes, that's more like it. I don't multitask well, so.
I've got it just.
All right. I'm going to put this down. She's going to be responsible for sharing. Hello, everyone. Okay, so dreams. We all know what a dream is, and there are different types of dreams. I'm just going to list them, and then we'll kind of go back to discuss each one and then talk about why they're important. So different types of dreams. There are dreams that are just the content of your subconscious mind and are processing the events of the day. And there are dreams that are psychological, like deeply subconscious, continually turning over things going on deep within yourself, emotionally and psychologically. And this can be in relation to your conscious, current, mortal ego self, as well as your deeper self, your soul, and its emotions and deeper psychology from the entirety of its existence. Another type of dream is like astral projection. So while you're unconscious, part of yourself going and exploring other realms or physical locations. Other kinds of dreams are traveling within the dreamscape itself into other people's dreams or other places in the dreamscape, not strictly within your own subconscious. There are dreams that are messages from other entities or from your deeper self. And there are dreams that are past life memories or more frequently amalgamations of your memories. Am I forgetting anything? Other types of dreams one may encounter? Well,
I'm not listening.
At the very least, those are some of the kinds of dreams you could have. Hello, everyone. Welcome. All right. Why are dreams important? They are quite important and are a rich resource that is available to us that we may not be taking full advantage of. So here are some of the reasons why dreams are important and they're worth recording, paying attention to, and interpreting for your understanding. From a psychological perspective, they can lend truthful and deep insight into yourself, what's going on inside of you, issues you are dealing with, or inspiration or other kinds of things occurring to you. There's so much depth to each person, and there is even more to explore in your dreams, and some things that you may not consciously be aware of or have noticed. There's a part of you that does, and that can be accessed if you just take the time to interpret your dreams, so understanding yourself and sometimes even situations you're in or other people in a new way. Other reasons it's important is because sometimes they are messages from deities or other divine beings, and it can be in the form of advice or warnings or a heads up or anything really, or even just comfort. It is frequently helpful to be aware of if you are traveling, and perhaps to discover for what purpose, if there is one, or if you're frequenting another's dreamscape or someone else has come upon yours, what the reason or relation is. There's like one other thing I wanted to say. What was it?
I don't know.
Another reason dreams are important. Oh, yes. If you are dreaming about your past lives, again, it's like a lot of insight into yourself. That can be kind of tricky of how to make use of information like that, but at the very least, it would be useful to know what is sitting there inside of your own mind. If memories are coming up, sometimes there is a reason that is relevant, some important information that sits deep inside yourself that is not normally accessible.
All right, so here's the first question. What is the difference between a dream that is from a psychological from a psychological perspective versus a spiritual perspective? Like what makes them different? Not ways that you can tell the difference, but what makes them different?
So psychological dreams concern your own thoughts, feelings, psychological processes, issues, current physical situations or past ones in this current lifetime, and people in your life. And it is comes from you, your own mind, and is an internal source.
Usually coming from a place of thoughts, ideas, and memories. Nightmares are almost always the result of trauma or high stress. You don't usually have spiritual dreams that are going to be in a nightmare form. It's not very common. Nightmares are usually your subconscious tackling something dark within you.
Yes. Dreams with a spiritual bent, frequently the source can be internal, so it could be coming from yourself, or it could be coming from an external influence, an entity or otherwise. And there is usually what is coming up for a reason of some sort. The reasons are endless of potentially what the reason could be, but it's usually more pertinent information. All of it is important, but it's in a different sort of way.
All dreams are important. They're just important in different ways. That's the easiest way to put it.
Spiritual dreams concern things outside of the purview, for the most part, of your so-called day-to-day life. Yeah, not always, so that's not a strict distinction. It's just a generalization. All right.
I'm following your lead because I actually know so much about dreams that I don't even know what to talk about. As a spiritualist and scholar, I guess I would put it, dreams are something that I have studied extensively. By extensively, I mean I've actually read Jungian texts on the psychology behind dreams, dozens of different metaphysical perspectives on dreams, and as well as just studying symbology, color correspondence,
Okay.
Native American spirit animals, things like that. Things that will come up in dreams, I've studied them.
So the next thing I'd like to point out, and then I think I'd like to talk about, lean on your knowledge about how to tell the types of dreams apart, and eventually we will get into how to interpret them for yourself. Next, I'd like to just state the importance of recording your dreams. So if you don't, do your best to make it a habit of writing down whatever you remember of your dreams the night before, and to keep a record. Even if you don't know or know how to understand them now, or know how to interpret them, you can reflect on them later. Sometimes even years later, I've gone back and looked at dreams and had a greater understanding of things where I saw important information that I didn't see when I had it. So just record them any way that you like. That will make them easy to refer back to.
If you have a hard time remembering your dreams, I recommend you Google something called dream incubation, which is kind of like building in a keyword in your head that allows you to try and stay more consciously aware during your dreams. That way you can record them a little easier. Usually, depending on how much you look into it, there'll also be guidelines on the best way to record your dreams so that you kind of build a habit out of recording them.
Yes.
For instance, when I record my dreams, I record people, places, and things that kind of stand out before recording whatever solid individual memories I have. It makes it a lot easier also to go in and research what those symbols could mean.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, in my keywords, I would write down Lysander as someone I know. I would write down that he was wearing blue and that I hugged him, or we went on a car ride, or whatever. So that when I look up what it means to go on a car ride, I know who it relates to and the relationship I have with them. And it allows me to also consider the colors he was wearing. So it tells me something about the emotive or situational context. So in this case, blue would make me feel safe. I felt safe driving in a car with Lysander. Or if he was specifically behind the wheel of the car, I feel safe allowing him to lead my life or make a decision. And all of these things factor together to kind of tell you exactly what it is that you're going through in that dream. So yes, journaling is a really great way of keeping track of your dreams. There's dozens of different theories and ways of interpreting dreams. As I said, I've personally studied how to do it spiritually and psychologically.
So the way you interpret a dream is influenced by the type of dream. You would interpret a psychological one different than, say, past life memories. So maybe let's start with how to tell them apart.
So the thing about telling dreams apart usually has to do with a sense of intuition or instinct about your dreams. Typically, if you're going to have a dream where if you have a dream where it feels very real, the place is a real place, the people seem to be real people. Hello, kitty cat. Yes, we are kitty cat. We are on the desk. The people feel real, the place feels real, the situation is realistic. You are probably dealing with a memory. Obviously, if you can recognize the places and people and things, it is probably a memory from this life. If you do not recognize the people, places, and things, it could very well be a past life. That's not to say that your mind can't come up with very realistic scenarios, only that if you treat it like you would a memory or past life memory, you are more likely to get a better answer. Typically, if it's just a dream, if it's just you psychologically processing through things, there are going to be things that are a little weird. Dreams tend to have that little bit of weirdness to them where they just don't feel realistic. Can you just pick a lap?
Sit down, honey.
Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. No, pick a lap. Pick a lap. Right? How about right here? Sorry, we were having a cat situation. Well, she's beautiful cutie. I love my children.
It does take practice. It's just kind of like practice and experience helping to tell. Eventually, you kind of get a feel. If you need extra help, you can divine. If you practice reading tarot cards or anything like that, you can just ask your divinatory tool, what was the nature of this dream, etc.
Yes, that does also help. Messages from the beyond, from spirits or guides, or gods or angels or whatever, will also usually be very weird. I have never analyzed a dream for myself or others where there was a message from the beyond, the divine, whatever, that wasn't really weird. And really weird seems kind of like an odd descriptor, but when I say really weird, I mean the sky was purple, the being was speaking through a bright orange goat. I mean, they tend to be really weird because the way that we process and interpret information has to do with familiarity and symbology. So the sun god wouldn't necessarily appear to you as a man wearing a white robe and a pair of sandals with a halo over his head saying, "I'm Apollo." He's more likely to appear to you as well, you're welcome, since you got all excited.
Oh no, I was just saying, I did have a dream about him. He talked through a cell phone that had like a CI as the caller ID, like the seeing eye.
Right.
The sun in the sky.
So I have to say, you're more likely going to talk to a radiant eyeball that has the sun kind of aura around it and is kind of intimidating and frightening, as a matter of fact. That makes way more sense than talking to a man who's like, "I'm a god, let's talk." It really just does not happen like that. So what you do is you end up breaking down the symbols to find out who it was rather than, or trusting instinctively who it was. It's a weird thing that happens. I don't know why. Probably because appearing to us as humans in our dreams is not adequate. It would just be a guy standing there telling you, "You're going on a journey." How many of us are going to believe the dream where the guy says, "You're going on a journey"? How many of us are going to remember that? But you're going to remember the really weird dream where the giant eyeball that had the sun behind it told you, "You're going on a journey." That's going to stick in your head a little better.
Yeah.
You may not understand it when you wake up, but it's going to stick in your head.
I have one thing to add, then. We have some questions. One way that you can kind of help determine if it's a psychological dream or not is that you can interpret the symbols from a psychological perspective straight. If it ends up being total nonsense, like the things don't fit together, you might want to consider a spiritual alternative.
And you can always go to someone who does dream interpretation, but be very careful who you talk to. Every single person that says, "I interpret dreams," doesn't necessarily do it well. There are a lot of people who have read one philosophy or one study, and they interpret everything in that method and have no variation. And everybody's different. I have used multiple methods on every single person I've talked to. There's no one method that covers all your bases or works for a single person. So if you do decide to speak to someone, in interpreting a dream, pick someone who has a lot of knowledge and has at least the ability to be somewhat intuitive in working with you, and someone who's at least a little sympathetic, because most dreams are a little traumatic or dealing with some kind of issue that's very personal. So don't just get on Reddit and be like, I had this dream. Talk to somebody who does have some knowledge in that regard.
All right. We're going to look at some questions.
Questions.
Linda asks, where do you go again if you feel you don't really dream? Well, you do dream even if you don't remember.
So the thing about it is that, putting spirituality aside entirely, it is impossible for a human being not to dream. It is a biochemical necessity. When we enter REM sleep, we dream. Your inability to retain your memory of that dream is the problem. And you can look on Google and research dream incubation or techniques on remembering your dreams to try and build up that muscle and build up the ability to remember those dreams. But we all dream. It happens every single time you go into REM sleep. It is impossible to not dream.
Usually you enter REM cycle multiple times in one evening.
So you're likely to have multiple dreams. Although you do typically remember the dream you had most recently to waking.
So most of the time you're not remembering all of your dreams anyway, because you dream every time you enter REM, which is as frequently as 1 to 10 times a night, depending on your personal cycle. All right, let's scroll down. Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
We're catching up with all the hellos.
All right. Good. I haven't made anyone wait. Claire does say, I've always had dreams with stairs and doors.
So stairs and doors are huge symbols, both spiritually and psychologically. Although they have similar meanings, they represent completely different things depending on the type of dream. Spiritually, when you're opening a door, you're going into a new area of yourself, or you're entering a new ability, or you're entering a new phase of life. Doors are very symbolic in that way. Stairs, similarly, are going deep, usually connecting with the soul and seeking or looking for something deeper within. Psychologically, stairs mean going into the subconscious, going into memories forgotten, and doors are usually entering into parts of the mind or parts of your life that you've chosen to forget. So very similar, but very different end results in those.
Alrighty. Well, that was not as much catching up as I thought that was. Alrighty. So again, this is a live Q&A, so you're welcome to ask questions at any point or make comments. It's meant to be kind of a back and forth. We're just kind of describing our knowledge about various aspects of the topic. And so yeah, later on in the video, we will be opening the floor to giving insight into your particular dreams. And
if you want to share.
Otherwise, The Kitchen Witch is a very talented dream interpreter. I'm all right myself.
You're okay.
There are other people who are good at it. However, despite that, I would still recommend you take up the challenge of learning to interpret for yourself, because obviously you dream every night. So it's kind of like you want to have some self-sufficiency.
How do we interpret dreams for ourselves, Lysander?
That's where I was going. How do we interpret our dreams?
Well, you start with the basics, right?
Remembering it first, and then...
Obviously. No, you start with the basics. Like I mentioned earlier, the things that stand out the most to you, whether it's people, places, or things, and trying your best to build detail from there. So you remember sitting on a park bench next to your best friend. Well, that's great. That tells you that you are familiar with your best friend. The park bench tells you that you are in a place of comfort, depending on how you feel about the park. Maybe the park is dark and it's night outside and the trees are very ominous. that changes the context entirely. Maybe it's the middle of the day and there's birds chirping and children playing and you're having an ice cream cone. That also changes the context. So you start with what you remember most, the key points of the scene. And you'll always want to start with the earliest point and go through it one aspect at a time until you build a full picture. So you're sitting with your friend on a bench. You remember it's daytime and you are each having an ice cream cone. What that tells me is that you're sharing food with a friend. That shows not only companionship, but trust. The fact that you're seated comfortably, you don't remember the bench being uncomfortable or cold or anything, means that you're comfortable with this person and this place. Then you'll kind of go from there. It was daytime, so that usually means that there's a positive element to this dream. You remember seeing water. It's emotional. Whenever you see water in your dream, it's emotional. So the big pond was bright blue and glassy. It didn't have any debris or unnatural coloration to it. So you have positive feelings associated to this person and this situation. So spending time with this person in nature makes you feel good, would be the easiest, most basic way to interpret that. And then you would add in the detail of, okay, there were trees. What do trees mean? There was a path or a road that you guys got up and walked down. What do paths mean? You passed a guy on a bright blue bike. What does bright blue mean? What does the bike represent? You'll want to go through every single possible detail in order to build the greater picture. I have interpreted dreams where it's literally taken me 8 hours to interpret the dream.
It can be a lengthy process.
It can be a very, very lengthy process, but the amount of knowledge you can get from that is overwhelming.
Indeed. Try to remember details as best as you can, because they lend important nuances that affect the meaning and information. Just a quick run through of various resources that we would recommend to help build your knowledge through which you can interpret dreams. The first thing is that these are your dreams. So if you lack knowledge and resources, you can always fall back on, what do I associate with blank?
And that's the most important. Even if you utilize a dream dictionary or something and it says trees mean nature, if when you look at a tree, you feel safe, warm, comfortable, you don't like trees and you don't like nature, they remind you of bugs. What you feel about the symbol supersedes what any dream dictionary can tell you. Mm-hmm. If you look at the tree and you go, oh, nature, no, that's not my thing. I like the city. This is not my bed. This is not my world. The tree isn't a good thing. You're in nature. You don't like that. It doesn't matter what the dream dictionary says. What you feel about that symbol will always be the most important definition and description.
Your own associations and feelings to a color, object, or person come first, and how you felt in the situation. Sometimes that lends insight. Otherwise, you can cross-reference multiple dream dictionaries to build a rounded perspective. My favorite is dreammoods.com, actually.
Yes.
That's the only dream dictionary I've been remotely happy with. Actually, dislike all the other ones I've ever read. And then there are psychology, a psychological perspective, such as what was established by Carl Jung, Jungian psychological symbology. So I would look him up and study him a bit. And then there's spiritual symbolism, which I'm sure I don't have specific resources for that other than like this book. Well, it says Book of Symbols if you can't see the title too well.
The thing about dreams is the broader your knowledge, the more you're going to be able to interpret dreams for yourself. Having a dream dictionary is great. Knowing the basics of Jungian philosophy is great. But studying what symbols are on all levels can be incredibly helpful. Same thing with like colors. Study various different color correspondences. What does blue usually mean? What does orange usually mean? I also have found studying things like Native American dream symbols or animal dream symbols very important. When I see animals in dreams, my first instinct is to refer to Native American beliefs over what I read in a dream dictionary. Same thing with colors. Rather than go with what a dream dictionary says, I almost always go with a metaphysical color correspondence instead. They tend to, in the case of the colors, they tend to have a much broader idea of what these colors could represent, rather than it just being, oh, blue is calming. Well, yes, in a dream dictionary, it would say blue is calming. Varying shades of blue might be varying levels of calm, but, you know, a witch's handbook is going to say blue is the color of, you know, the spirit of the sky. It's the color of deep emotional impact. It's the color of healing. It's the color, it's going to give you a lot of other concepts to work with.
Yes. You just want to expand your perspective, have many different perspectives because they all come together.
All right, let's
All
see.
right,
let's catch up on some of these comments.
All right. Gina asks, what does it mean when you dream you are being blown away by wind in a swirly motion and can't land on the ground like a leaf?
That sounds like you are not very good at making decisions. Without going into the nuance of every single symbol, effectively, what it's saying is that as life moves and things change or move around you, people make decisions around you, you go with it. You're not fighting it. You're not able to get your feet on the ground, you know, make your own stand or make your own choices. You're allowing everything else in your life to make decisions for you.
You know, like the saying, being blown about by every wind, saying that you yourself lack focus and self-direction.
That'd be a short way of describing it. All right.
Mac asks, is it true you are every person in your dream?
It can be true. Depending on the type of dream you're having, in the case of dreams that are related to memories, the people that you recognize in the dream will be those people. It's your memory of those individuals. In the case of dreams that are overly fantastic, even people who you recognize may just represent qualities of yourself you see in them. So I dream about my older brother all the time, but when I look at him, I see the person I want to be, someone who's very strong, focused, stalwart, trustworthy, honorable. These are all qualities that I see in him. So depending on the scenario, I'm reflecting my best self or attempting to see my best self in that image. And in the case of times where it's related to a memory or processing something, it's just my brother. So it can be true, but it's not always true.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not always true.
It's not always true. But there are weird dreams where basically, yeah, that's true. Especially if you don't recognize anyone in the dream. Nobody is familiar. They're not your family, your friends, none of that. It's all you. You got some crazy lady walking down the street with a shopping cart, swinging a cat by the tail. Now that's you. If you don't recognize the crazy cat lady, you might want to analyze.
Yeah.
There could be something to that.
I'd like to add, sometimes it's aspects of yourself in your relationship to parts of you, or sometimes it's reflecting memory of a person, but sometimes it's kind of somewhere in the middle where if you're dreaming about a person, you're dreaming about your feelings and your perception of that person, not actually, so it's not really about them, it's still about you, but not an aspect of you, but your feelings towards them.
It really depends on the type of dream you're having.
Yeah.
Psychological versus spiritual. There's a lot to that.
Mac also asks, I remember the majority of my dreams. Is that normal? Well, it's healthy.
It's healthy, actually.
Means you're
So
not stressed out of your brain.
most medical scientists and doctors that study dreams believe that we should have the ability to remember all of our dreams. They are actual memories that we carry with us. If unlocked, we should actually be able to remember every dream we've had in our entire lives. It is still something that is happening to us. So I would say being able to remember the majority is probably a lot healthier than the rest of us who struggle to do that.
Mhm.
And yeah.
Your recollection of dreams can be affected by stress, so you
Mhm.
probably have better management skills than the rest of us.
Yes.
Good for you.
Good for you.
Record them then.
Yeah.
All right. Hello. Claire says, I astral project for ages now. I've still been in my house. That's weird to me. I was trying so hard to pick up a little elephant I have, but I couldn't. Now elephants all over the place wherever I look, and someone gave me one. I'm not sure if that is a question.
I'm not sure that it's a question,
Okay.
but
Thank you for sharing.
it is an interesting experience.
Della, let's see. One dreams about a house, and it's always the same house in the dreams.
So the question I would have for you, Della, is this your dream house, as in the house that you would love to live in, or is this just a house in your dreams? Places, especially places that are reoccurring in your dreams, represent a singular part of yourself.
Mhm.
Every nuance of that, from the yard outside to the color of the house to the way that the rooms are laid out, will say something about that part of you.
Yeah.
It's one of the most interesting things to study, as a matter of fact.
We have mental landscapes. That is
Yes.
a very important dream, so I would analyze that house.
Yeah, definitely analyzing the colors, the nuances, anything that really sticks out about that house could probably tell you a lot about you. Now, if it's your dream house, what it's doing is it's representing what you believe to be the best version of yourself in that same situation.
Hmm.
It's kind of like a guideline or something you're aspiring towards. A lot of times we dream about the things that we want for our lives. It's kind of where we get the idea of you must be dreaming, right? So it really depends. Is it the house in your dreams, or is it the house of your dreams, the thing that you want to aspire to and be? But the same thing. It's just when you go to interpret it or break it down and look at it, there's a difference in the way you look at it. Is it the place you're in now, or the place you hope to be in?
All right. Tamanda asks, what do you do when you dream of something you have never seen before in your waking life?
You interpret it, because it's either a spiritual or psychological process happening in your head.
Hmm.
If you've never seen it before, just means that it's something that your mind has created.
All right. Gina just comments about her earlier question. That makes sense. My 9-year-old has the same dream all the time. Like stairs and doors, I think.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
That's it.
All right. We are caught up. Cool.
Yeah, something interesting, especially if you do decide to check out Dream Moods, which I think their search engine is broken at the moment, but you can look up things alphabetically, so don't write it off if it says it's not working.
You just can't use the search bar, so you have to actually go to each letter page.
They're updating it, I believe. It's got one of the most rounded definitions for each symbol. It includes the Jungian ideas as well as some spiritual ideas, so it tends to be the most balanced version of a dream dictionary that we've found anyways.
Yeah, I mean, some of the meanings are like off the wall, but for the most part,
Again,
it's the best I
interpret them
found.
based on your own, own ideas first.
So I have commented the link.
There you go.
Boom. All right, Mac asks, I have this dream periodically and it puts me in my childhood home and I'm always saving someone different from twisters constantly landing on top of my neighborhood. And I stay in the heart of Chicago. What could this be?
Well, the first question or the first point I would make is that is a psychological dream. That is you trying to process memories from your childhood. So the question I would ask first and foremost is, do you feel like you took care of people a lot as a child? Were you always having to rescue people from negative situations? Were you always having to take care of things that weren't being done around the house? Did you feel responsible for the care of the other people in your home? And did you live a very comfortable, very easy childhood, or did it always seem a little chaotic? The twister would absolutely come off to me as a symbol of things disturbing the home constantly. There's always a fight going on. There's always a rush to pay the bills. There's always a limited supply of food. There's always something happening that creates a sense of chaos or things being up in the air.
Yeah. Disaster.
A sense of disaster.
Conflict.
Yeah. So that's what that dream is. That's your mind trying to figure out how to process those memories. The best thing you can do for yourself would be to take the time to remember as much as you can from one of those dreams and go through those symbols and maybe figure out specifically what it is that you're trying to process. You know, you might be comfortable with the idea that your family depended on you too much when you were growing up, but you never got over the fact that things were always in upheaval, or you never got over the fact that you didn't feel safe. There's some nuance to that you're trying to process on a subconscious level. So that would be my short answer interpretation of that.
And once you resolve that with yourself, you should actually stop having the dream.
Yes. And that is something very important to remember. Regardless of whether or not it's your soul trying to send you a message about your spiritual nature or your subconscious trying to process your life, when you've managed to come to grips with it and you've managed to process that properly, those dreams should go away.
Mm-hmm.
Which is also a good incentive to take the time to really work through them. Yeah, I hope that helps.
Well, those are kind of the basics about dreams. We will kind of continue to spontaneously meander along the subject on our own until there are questions.
I'm going to leave you to do that for a second.
Okay, so you are all welcome to ask questions about anything, about the subject and different aspects of it, as well as about specific dreams you have had. And kind of during lull points, we will discuss various things as they occur to us, because it is a broad subject. Right, we have a comment from Della. I will wait for Eliza to come back. Hi, Patty. I'm just thinking. So, Patty is watching. Ma.
Hi,
Ma. We do have two other comments.
Okay.
One from Della. She's describing the house in her dreams. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just a house, because she doesn't say it's like the house of the house she wants.
Yeah.
So this house is describing you. The house is white with the paint off gray under the white. Interesting, layered paint. It has a bunch of rooms with passageways. It sits in the woods. It seems to be in the fall. Well, the interior of the house would actually tell you about you more so. But
so
if you don't know what the inside of the house looks like, that is telling as well.
So just based on that, I can tell you a couple of things about what this house represents. Houses in our dreams represent a place in our mind. This particular place is lost in the woods, as it were. It's a place in yourself that you are not either actively aware of, or it's a place in yourself that you have to look for. It's not a place that you are already in comfort with. And when I refer to places in the mind, I'm talking about your inner child, your matron, your mother kind of persona, your public persona, your inner self. It's some nuance of yourself that is currently lost in the woods. It's a white house with the paint off gray under the white. So what that tells me is that someone that you, more specifically, have tried to paint over this house. This house was a gray house in the first place. Gray is inherently negative. Depending on the tone of that gray, it tells you how deeply negative it is. But you've tried to paint it white. So it's almost like you're trying to cover up the fact that this house is not a good place. Going into it, you're saying it has a lot of rooms and a lot of passageways. Think of those rooms as being memories associated to this place, and the hallways or passageways are what connects them. So within this place in your mind, inner child, deepest self, whatever this represents, you have a lot of memories that are interconnected that relate to this part of you. And it's something that you don't perceive as being particularly good. I personally relate my inner childhood to being kind of like an old brownstone building where it's full of apartments and zigzaggy stairs. So it's a lot of effort to get from one memory to the next. But I associate my relationships or the person that I've been in my relationships to a theme park. This is going to sound terrible, but in this theme park, it seems like every time I go to a different ride, there's a different boy there. And the type of ride tells me a lot about the way I perceive that relationship. So these places in ourselves represent a large facet of who we are and how our memories interplay on that persona. So that's a little bit about what I can tell from that.
All right. Next is a comment from Melissa. I have crazy dreams, like I know my dad is in them, but they don't make sense.
Okay. That sounds like you are having a dream. Unfortunately,
It's not enough information to really tell you anything.
Feel free to give us more information if you're comfortable.
Yeah. Claire, we miss you, Patty.
Hi, Maddie.
All right. Claire says, why do I only dream of people I know that are horrid and hardly ever dreamed of loved ones?
Surprisingly, or not surprisingly, depending on who you are, that is more common. We don't actually dream about the people that we're in peaceful relationships with because there's nothing to resolve. We dream about the people that have done bad things to us because we are attempting to work through that trauma. So the reason that you're dreaming about people that have been unkind to you is because you're trying to psychologically and subconsciously work through that trauma in that REM state, so that you are able to, I guess, deal with the situation better. It's one of the reasons why REM sleep is so exceptionally important, because we're in a place where our minds are kind of separate from our emotions. So we're able to process these things on a purely logical level without the emotional triggers being in the way. You need to stop with this, Areshka Gal.
Come here, baby.
I know the table is the best way to be between us, but that is not working. Mama gonna keep grabbing at you. I'm giving you the snuggle.
Melissa repeats her comment. Just knowing that your dad's in your dream, it can't tell you anything about the dream. Bye, Patty. You're welcome, Della. Okay, Melissa says, okay, it's like he's watching me, but it never says anything to me, and I want to talk to him. Sorry.
So what I can gather from just that little bit of information is that you don't feel close to your father, and you may feel that he's very closed off, or that you are not comfortable speaking to him about things. What I would take from that on a dream level is that you're trying to get up the nerve to tell him something or to talk to him about something that's been on your mind for a long time. And in a dream place, you're attempting to kind of go through the scenario in your head, whether it's in different places or different times or different rooms or different situations. You're trying to find the one that works the best on a subconscious level. You're trying to find that place where you have the comfort to be able to have that conversation, whatever it might be. But that's just me extrapolating on that little bit of information, of course.
Yeah, it is not much to go on. All right, moving down. Just hello.
Hello, everybody. Oh, it's raining in Portugal. That's fantastic.
That sounds it's very lovely to me. Well, Melissa adds, he's passed away.
That explains a lot.
Okay, yes, it's just kind of like,
so yeah,
need more.
That quality definitely makes a difference. I'm not doing a psychic reading here. This is just me interpreting what information is given to me about the dreams. His being passed away doesn't change the fact that there's something you wish you had said. I wouldn't interpret that as being a haunting of any kind. I would interpret that as being very subconscious, wishing that you could say what you can. And given that you are incapable of doing so, would absolutely come across as him not being able to respond. My suggestion, though, from a spiritual standpoint, would be to find some time, sit down with a picture of him and a candle, just put the picture on a table, light a white candle in front of it, just kind of focus and see him in your mind and say what you needed to say. If you never let that go and you never get that out, you're going to keep carrying it, and those dreams are going to keep going.
Yes.
So trust that the candle is enough. Trust that feeling him in your heart is enough, and say what needs to be said.
Yes. It's very frequently occurs that when we lose someone, that we hold on to them in a way, not just emotionally or psychologically, but even energetically. And so that holding on can show up in your dreams in that way and other ways as well.
Yeah.
All right.
I hope that helps.
Ezra says, what does it mean if you can't remember your dreams?
Hi, Ezra. We mentioned it earlier, and the thing about not being able to remember your dreams is that you just need to take the time to train your mind to remember them. Everybody dreams every single night, every single time we go through REM cycles. It's a necessary part of survival. If you weren't dreaming, you would be a madman. Like legitimately crazy, because it's a necessary component of remaining mentally aware.
Yeah.
So you can Google dream incubations or ways to remember dreams. There's a lot of different methods. It's different for everybody. So I'm not going to recommend a specific form of dream memory or dream recollection. But they're there. You just need to learn how to kind of hone your mind to remember those things.
Yeah. I mean, the more effort you put in, the more your brain will be like, oh, we're trying to retain this.
Yeah.
And comply.
And journaling. Highly recommend journaling.
So, I guess that's the only specific thing that I'll suggest is that if you do choose to write them down, every morning, recording you have to say is, I dreamed something. I don't remember it.
Yeah.
And then build up from there. It's like, I remember the color yellow. That's all I got today. And you're kind of telling your brain, hey, I want to remember this, and slowly you'll start to build on that.
Building habits, that's how you remember your dreams.
Yeah.
I had to do it. I spent a year of my life writing stuff down every single morning, and I remember my dreams now. So it just takes time. You do have to build it up like most, talents.
Yeah. Claire and Tony remark on the rain in Europe. I'm sorry that there are floods, but
Rain is good.
rain is nice sometimes.
I don't know that they have a shortage of rain in England, though. So,
Thank you, and you're welcome, Tony. Hello, Monica. Yes, we are discussing dreams. All right, we're caught up. Okay, here's another question. Holly asks, what does it mean to dream of laying in bed with a stranger and falling asleep?
okay. So, usually when you see people in your dreams that are not a family or friend or acquaintance, it's not anybody you know by any means. It is usually an aspect of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I would focus on the qualities of who this stranger was, male or female, handsome, well-dressed, what color are his eyes, what color is their hair, and really focusing on what relationship exists. Did you sleep with them? Are you both fully dressed, laying over the covers, under the covers? Are there pillows? Is the bed comfortable? It seems like a lot of details, but what these all tell you is what you believe about this quality in yourself. Who this person is a quality of who you are. So if they are well-dressed, if they're male and well-dressed and well-groomed and very handsome, you have a positive perception of your male self or your
inner masculine spirit.
Inner masculine spirit. There you go. That's what we
masculine energy.
You're very comfortable with that in yourself. If he's a really chubby guy and he's, balding, maybe you don't have a very good sense of that masculine, or you don't feel you embody it. If they remind you of someone, even though they're a stranger, it could be saying something about the way you perceive that individual. It's just not enough information. Dreams are very, very detail focused. But I would say look at the details about the individual and how they could correlate to you. How do they relate to you as a figure? And go from there.
Being in a bed with them suggests that you're trying to get to know this aspect of yourself, or
Mm-hmm.
you're not quite ready to integrate into yourself, because that's what having sex with strangers in your dreams often points to. You're just kind of next to them, inviting it deeper into yourself and going into your intimate self to explore that aspect. Let's see. Looks like we have. Oh, yes, Tony's just commenting on the conversation. Yes, frequently we can dream about trying to balance various aspects of ourselves in different energy. Holly says, nothing romantic happened. It's just a well-dressed, handsome man that seemed curious about me. Just a weird dream.
Yeah, I would say that it's just you getting comfortable with whatever this male aspect represents. If you have future dreams of him or similar figures, maybe the next time you see it, it feels familiar or it reminds you of the previous figure, but is dressed differently or in a different place. It's just this aspect of you coming forward. So pay attention to their behaviors and the things that change. It should tell you something about what that aspect is.
Let's see. Max says, I have dreams, maybe visions of me doing or being in a place in life exactly how I think about it. What could that be telling me? I'm not sure that I entirely understand the question.
I don't either.
Let's see. I have dreams, maybe visions of me doing or being in a place in life exactly how I think about it. Maybe you mistyped. What could that be telling me? It is pretty normal to dream of like real life places and things that you do during the day, especially if they are regular kind of things. So you'll have to elaborate or rephrase your question.
Yeah. Sounds like you're saying that you have dreams of exactly how you see your life or how you perceive your life. That's just you processing the information from your day.
Which we do. Sometimes you just dream about
Sometimes
stuff that happened or shows you watched.
If you're a fairly psychologically balanced person, sometimes you just dream about things that happened in your day. Because it's just your mind filing it away in the memory bank.
Amanda asks, I had a dream where I saw the Eye of Horus. I wasn't happy about it in the dream. What could it mean? Very good question.
I'll let you take this one.
Well, okay, so dreams aren't always psychological. They can be spiritual kind of information, whether it's from you or an external source. Dreaming about visuals or symbols associated to deities can sometimes be pointing to that entity. So it may, deep in your subconscious, you may be reflecting upon a negative association that you have to Ra or Horus. It just depends on the exact eye you saw because they're kind of conflated a bit. So it could be referencing either deity. So that is kind of the straightforward meaning, is that there's some kind of negative association to those deities, which does happen sometimes, or reflecting some kind of information or thing that happened in the past concerning you and that Godhead. The most symbolic, I would take it, is that the Eye of Horus or Ra appears to illuminate something or to shed a light on something, and you may be feeling unhappy about light being shed on something. Maybe you don't want to know the truth or to acknowledge it about some particular thing. So I would think about anything else you remember about that dream. So I'd say probably something like that. Amanda says, why do we dream about people I've never seen in real life before? Two things. I'll say this one thing first. It has been noted by scientists that, it's going to sound crazy, part of our brain remembers the face of every single person you've ever seen, ever, even just walking down the street, and that in your dreams, your mind doesn't create faces. It's borrowed a face from some random person you passed who you never even consciously noticed, or even as like a baby or something who looked at you.
Background character from Game of Thrones.
Yes, so that's why you see people you don't recognize from that perspective now.
It's stock footage. When you see someone that you don't recognize in your dreams, it's stock footage, which is just an interesting note. But typically, as I've said a few times, when you see someone that you do not know in your dreams, it typically means that it represents an aspect of yourself. It's a different archetype or a different part of you being represented. So you'd have to consider how they were dressed, what they looked like, and how they behaved to maybe come to some idea of who that archetype in you is.
All right. Monica says, there's something I'd like to share with you. Well, thanks. Thanks for sharing it with class. I saw a dream a few days ago. Something was chasing me or observing me for a while. I could not see it, only feel its presence, which happens quite often in my dreams. But in that particular dream, you were my neighbors, and I was about to tell Lysander about this being.
Okay. Next time you have a dream that says, tell Lysander, you should just message Lysander.
My inbox is always open for questions and advice.
That's interesting.
You should inbox me about this.
You should definitely message Lysander and give us more details.
Just in case something greater is happening than just a dream.
It could have just been a dream. You could just associate solving spiritual problems with Lysander, and that could be why that came up in the dream. But just in case you are being followed by something or watched by something, might be a good idea to talk to us. We'd be happy to help. A lot of people actually dream of being watched or pursued or followed, or there's like I don't know how to describe it, but it happens to me a lot. It's almost like you're on TV. You can feel the audience on the other side of the fourth wall, where you're like, I know everybody's watching me do this. And there's a lot of different ways to interpret that. It really does depend on the situation. So if you want to PM us and give us more details, or if you want to give us more details right now, that's up to you. But it could be any number of things, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. And I guess that's all I remember. Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hello, everybody.
I love you.
Getting kitty pets. I love it. Yeah. All right, guys.
Mm-hmm. I've just been kind of reflecting about the various dreams I've had. The potential is very broad. Like reflecting on my dreams that I've had that were and weren't psychological. Gosh, so many different things have happened. Part of me is not even sure where to start. Fortunately, that's all I remember. I will try to remember more of it. I will definitely message you if I do. I mean, you don't have to wait to dream of it again to message me. Here, I will be more clear. Your dream either is pointing to you, whatever it is that's pursuing you in your dream, represents something you're trying to resolve, and I was a symbolic being in your dream representing someone you could turn to for guidance in helping process this, or you are actually being pursued by a real spirit and were reaching out to me through the dreamscape. So I just wanted to be more explicit so you understood my concern. So don't wait until the next time you have that dream to message me. You should message me right because I'm not trying to be alarmist. It's just sort of like double checking, making sure that it's not some external thing happening. Because if it is, that should be handled.
Do you feel like you're being watched during the day when you're not sleeping? Better question. Just as an extension of this conversation in kind of a different direction, having ghosts in your home,
you can dream of them.
They can affect your dreams. So if you're having dreams that you're being watched, I would ask yourself, am I being watched when I'm not sleeping? Is there something in my house I'm not aware of?
I'm going to read Mac's question in a moment. I feel like psychological dreams are
psychological?
They're somewhat straightforward. So other than answering questions, I think we'll be discussing nuances of spiritually oriented dreams from here on out.
Our cat again.
Yes, this is my cat, Areshka Go.
Say hello.
All right. Mac says, I have dreams of me fighting huge monsters, and as soon as I see myself about to die, and at the last minute when I'm about to die, I do something drastic, see the monster dying, then I wake up. This happens several times as I can remember. What y'all think? It's very interesting as it is reoccurring.
Beautiful, Mom. Sorry, I'm preoccupied with cat. Okay.
Do I need to read it again?
So people say they're fighting huge monsters. I think of kaiju first. Things like Godzilla and Gamera. Mothra.
Most likely something you're struggling with within yourself.
Yeah. I mean, that's the short end of it.
Struggling with a lot of inner demons.
Inner demons. That's how I would take it. I would take it as being fighting your inner demons, and you say you do something drastic. I would say focus more on the action it takes to overcome your demons, not the demons themselves. What is it that you're doing that defeats them and saves your life?
He says that he's frequently on the brim of death by the end of the dream, and is watching the other thing die. So it is a real struggle for you.
Yes. Like I said, I would focus in on what it is you do to defeat them.
Yeah. Claire says, totally agree. Negative energies can seemingly easy to intrude in our dreams. Yes, unfortunately. Permutation by other entities or people can happen, and it can be very intrusive and troublesome.
Having very, very negative people in your house can also cause you to have nightmares. Never ignore the fact that your negative friends and family members can do things too.
Yes, Monica, that's why I clarified, because I don't think you understood the concern.
Yes.
So please message me. Okay, yes, kind of, something like that.
Hello. Hi, Sabrina. Yeah, the type of monster, if you're fighting your inner demons, the type of monster doesn't actually matter. You can break down and make associations based on what you think of when you see these creatures, especially if they're creatures of fiction. But ultimately, I would focus on the thing you're doing to defeat them. What is this something drastic that you're doing? And how does that translate to you being able to overcome your demons in real life? That's the real takeaway from that.
You think it would be distracting to get my insight on what the monsters represent?
If you want to.
So you say a bear wolf. So kind of like animalistic type monster. So that would probably point to struggling with baser aspects of human nature, like aggression, rage, your own anger, having to deal with other people's anger, stuff like that. Things we consider animalistic or monstrous. You view them as very monstrous. So yeah.
Our inner demons are rarely demons.
Oh, thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony. Yeah, our inner demons are rarely demons. They are usually the things that we see as monstrous within ourselves or others. We had, an example would be growing up with a father who was very abusive when he was angry. You might perceive any form of anger that you feel as being monstrous. Now, that's not to say that you don't have the right to being angry like any other human, but you're demonizing it. This is just a generalization. But when we confront an inner demon or a monster in our dreams, what we're trying to do is we're trying to find ways of overcoming that part of ourselves that we have demonized and we have kind of put in that role. Which is why the way you conquer it is so important. Do you slay it with a sword? Do you smite it with holy light? What is it that you do to overcome this perception of a demon in yourself or monster within yourself? Because there's a lot of clues in that, in how you can learn to cope with it in everyday life rather than demonizing it. Mm-hmm. That's what makes that the important part of the dream. Yeah. That's a little bit of young for you there. Little bit of Carl. I love the fact that man's name is Carl.
Well, yeah.
It's just like such an unassuming name. I just love the fact that his name was Carl.
I think he was German.
Mm-hmm.
I might be mistaken, but
I think so.
He was originally a student and then contemporary of Sigmund Freud.
I've studied Freud. We don't use Freud.
No.
He has some twisted ideas. Jung is cool though. We dig him.
Slay with a sword, you hit right on the spot. Mm-hmm.
So you're overcoming these demons or monsters with the power of your mind. The sword represents the
Intellect.
mind and the intellect. So you're able to intellectualize or conquer these monsters in your mind, or these monsters that you have going on with your mind.
Mhm.
That's how I would translate those symbols.
Power of logic and reason and rational thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, this is often a good way to deal with one's overpowering emotions.
Yes. So that gives you very strong clues on how to deal with your inner demons or your inner monsters. Is you defeat them by being rational, thinking it through. Yeah. Interesting what we can learn from our dreams. I'm going to stop you from getting up there. You're going to come to me this way. No?
Oh,
When I try to love on you, it doesn't work?
Monica says, I don't resonate with Freud at all. I love Jung though. Oh boy. We're trying
Freud
to
was
not
a
get
piece
into
of-
it.
Freud was a piece of work. That's all I'm going to say. We're not going to get into it.
his ideas are very dated, very
I-
of his time. Moving on.
Jung was from his time. He was a
We are Team Young, not Freud.
I have actually read some of Freud's works, and he is
A subject for, I don't know when we would talk about this.
old world psychiatry. Nothing about that was good.
All right. All right.
That's a topic for another time. We're not going to get into it.
Just
Just an excuse for me to say that he's crazy.
So any thoughts we have about more spiritually oriented dreams, because stuff gets weird and it can be complicated to understand.
Relax. No. Sorry, that song relates
It's
to
a
a
private joke.
relates to an experience that I had dealing with my subconscious. Had to do with a fairy dancing with a scarf riding a stegosaurus.
Monica knows what we're talking about
Mm-hmm.
with Freud. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Joe says, I had a dream 20 years ago. There was a man living in my attic. I only found out because there was blood dripping down into the hall. I still think about that. I was terrified.
Okay.
I would dare say psychological, unless you're living in a house with an attic that you were terribly afraid of.
Yeah. I was gonna say, well, the first question would be: is 20 years ago, did you live in a house with an attic? Because it may have been an indication of a spirit living above you. Would be my first.
Sad. Not to scare you, but
Not to scare you, but that would be my first association, just to rule out spirituality. Otherwise, let's see. Going through it all in my head real quick. So the attic is where we store the most secret things, things that are secret and old. And you're saying you've got a man stored in your secret place, and that you found out he was there because there was blood dripping from your ceiling.
To a hallway.
There is no positive way to analyze that. So I go back to my previous question. Did you live in a house with an attic? Maybe you had a ghost.
Can I offer a psychological interpretation?
Sure. It'll sound better than mine, I'm sure.
oh my God, she says, yes, I did. I moved. Oh
Yeah,
no,
no, you had a
Joe.
ghost. My
Oh no.
first thing I would think of is that it was you actually having like a vision of a spirit. I was gonna say,
It could
analyzing
be
that.
psychological, but it would be a very negative psychological thing.
That sounds
Mhm.
way more likely to be.
You don't live
a
there
thing in your attic.
anymore. So
There was a thing in your attic, but you're not there anymore. Don't be afraid of it. Let it go.
Let it go. Let it
Let it
stay
go.
in that attic.
Let it stay in the attic. You don't need it. Let it go.
Let's see. Monica says that's probably why I have such a hard time having a proper conversation with psychology students. Team Young. Yeah, Team Young. Freud.
We could have a long conversation.
Do we need to have a
No, we're not going to do a Q&A on
Jung
why
versus
psychiatry is
Freud.
awful.
Okay.
Freud is why
We are.
psychiatry.
This is a spiritual page.
We are
And I am
spiritualists.
a psychic, and my partner is a witch and psychic.
I'm a mystic.
So primarily, we are here to talk about spiritual things. However, before either of us began our spiritual paths, we haven't studied psychology in like university or anything, but we are self-educated lay with layperson knowledge. Although we have studied a variety of clinical texts as well.
I was going to say, I may as well have taken the psychiatry classes because I read all of the textbooks.
So we do have opinions. Okay, Tony. Let's see. Thank God. Yes, you are away from that thing.
Yeah, no problem, Joe.
You're welcome. That settles that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was,
Spooky.
that just came off as being like a...
If it were me, I
Spirit
would have
vision.
marched my butt immediately after waking up from that, marched upstairs and told it to GTFO right now. Out! I don't like my sleeping disturbed.
He really doesn't. Oh. Oh.
Again, I'm just kind of running over all the variety of dreams I've had, and this really is such a broad subject, maybe even broader than you might realize. Spiritually, dreams can be an important resource to obtaining information that you might not be able to get about yourself or whatever you're dealing with otherwise. I have used dreams to obtain such information on purpose, or have interpreted dreams that I just had and had some important insights. I'm just not sure how to begin describing how to figure that out. It's kind of like an integrated part of an overall spiritual journey and developing yourself and seeking healing and growth and skill.
Self-awareness. Self-awareness is how you develop the ability to interpret your own dreams with deep accuracy and fulfillment.
It is pretty hard to interpret your dreams if you're not honest with yourself on a basic level.
Yeah. I brought crafts in here, so you're going to have to keep this party going. I'm going to get distractions. So.
Well, I will think of other aspects of this to think about while you guys ask questions or just comment. My difficulty is not for lack of information. There's too much. Again, I will say a dream is probably psychological if you are able to make sense of the symbols in a cohesive thing it's talking about. Otherwise, it may be spiritual. To manifest our reality, right? I mean, they can be used that way, but that is not common.
I'd say that that's probably one of the most difficult and unnecessary ways to manifest reality is to use dreams.
Yeah, there's so many easier ways to
manipulate
reality.
reality. What's the one that everybody goes to first? The laws of power or something?
Oh, the law of attraction.
That's the one.
That's like way easier.
I just go back to the source, and I've read Hermetic Law.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that, but it's difficult, especially to do it on purpose, like consciously go to sleep with that intent and actually fulfill it in your dream in such a way that it actually works. You could just, do a ritual.
What? Sitting here for the last 20 minutes thinking I'm going to make ramen. Guess what I can't eat right now? Ramen.
I'm sorry, honey. I've been staring at that box of ramen like I don't know how to tell her. I'm not even gonna bring it up.
Should have said something sooner. I've been sitting here excited about my ramen.
I mean, when your thing is over, you could probably enjoy some.
I know.
Yeah.
When I'm feeling better, I'll have on. Sorry, I didn't mean to change the topic. I'm just like, oh. Speaking about dreams becoming nightmares.
Sabrina says, I have the weirdest dreams. Dreams are weird overall.
Dreams are inherently weird. Especially dreams that are helping us process our like subconscious. Gosh, those things can be bananas. But that's just because we're going through things in a symbolic way. It's interesting. And because all of us have different influences, different backgrounds, different everything, it really is subjective, and it really depends on the individual what you're going to see. Like I said, there's an inside joke between Lysander and I about a fairy dancing with a scarf sitting on a stegosaurus. It's a thing. We all have things.
Yeah.
The weird is real.
Tony says, back to Gaia, correct? Well, that's not how we think of it, but the idea is sound. Like when manifesting. Yeah. Anyway, let's see. Max says, one time at Wisconsin Dells, I got super sick, and my dad's best friend's wife did this thing where she told me to close my eyes. She touched my forehead, did some type of swirl with her finger over my stomach, started pulling in and up motion. Then she asked, how did I feel? And I was healed. This is 20 years ago. What did she do? Is that, I'm assuming, are you talking about a dream or something that happened while you were awake?
Sounds like a
wakeful healing.
Yeah, it sounds like you got healed.
Yeah, it sounds like she manipulated your energy.
Sounds like energy healing.
Sabrina says, learning to lucid dream and astral project is my biggest ambition, but I'm not that good at it. Well, we have some thoughts.
So don't start by lucid dreaming or trying to astral project. Start with dream incubation, which is the ability to trigger your memory response during a dream. So what you do is there's usually like a trigger word, and before you go to bed each night, you repeat the trigger word several times, and then while you're in your dream, when that trigger comes up, it kind of turns your memory on so that you recall your dreams. Mm-hmm. Then in the morning, the first thing you do is write down everything you remember. And what you do is you build up over a period of time, you build up the ability to just remember everything that happens without the trigger. From there, you can add in your lucid aspect. So whether it's the trope of the red rubber ball or a flower or something that triggers you into that lucidity, that's the best way to do it, is to start with dream incubation, where you're remembering everything that you do in your dreams and then building up to lucid dreaming.
Yes.
And astral projection is a completely different idea. It actually, when you astral project, you're not asleep at all. It's not even close to being the same as dreaming in any way. It is a deep, deep state of meditation where your soul leaves your body. And that is a journey that yogis have been trying to perfect for centuries.
Yeah.
That's all I can say for that. I have accidentally astral projected. I've never done it on purpose.
Right. So I have some
didn't
thoughts.
like it.
I have some thoughts as well. Dream incubation is great because it's kind of a foundational thing that leads very naturally to becoming lucid in your dreams, and it teaches you how to manipulate your dreams while in them. Mm-hmm. 2 triggers I learned that worked. I did the dream incubation thing, and I used a mirror, and indeed I did find a mirror in my dream, and I actually incubated an object in the dream, a white lily. So it actually, finding the mirror startled me into lucidity and caused me to create a secondary object to find. So it kind of builds naturally on itself. And again, like she described, what I did was just focus on, you can think of a word. I thought of the object, the mirror I wanted to see, and just like thought of the mirror, lying in bed, as I was falling asleep.
Yeah.
The other trigger for lucidity that I have used that has worked is you stare at your hands while lying in bed and say, you are dreaming. I am dreaming. And if you look at your hands in your dream, sometimes it will startle you into lucidity. And I have used that multiple times with effectiveness.
Ironically, I was able to lucid dream before I was able to remember my dreams. So I had to force the dream incubation to learn how to remember my dreams. But I had the ability to lucid dream on occasion, usually only in nightmares or in dreams where I began to become threatened.
Mm-hmm.
Being threatened in my dreams causes a trigger where I am fully consciously aware of the fact that I'm dreaming, and I can make whatever is upsetting me disappear. I'm just like, no, get out.
And sometimes lucidity does occur spontaneously or under certain circumstances. And I find that it happens more frequently when it's not just a dream. There's some spiritual component. So sometimes if you had a lucid dream, you may want to take a double look at that particular dream. Astral projection, it kind of depends on exactly what is meant by that experience. Full on, like leaving your body is super difficult because your body wants to, your soul wants to stay in your body.
Proper astral projection involves the soul leaving the body, or a piece of the soul leaving the body and consciously moving through the material plane on some level. Again, I've done it on accident before, never on purpose, and it is an art form that has never really been perfected.
Yeah, I kind of hesitate to call it astral projection, but I do something where it's like you project your consciousness into other places, whether it's other planes spiritually or on other locations on the material plane while awake. And it is really not any different than exercising like clairvoyance or anything. So I'm completely aware and awake, and I'm fully here and aware, but also elsewhere and engaging with the environment there.
Yeah, that's, most people would think of that as being projection. Yeah.
So you could think of that as projection. I don't know that I would call it that. It's something. And then, of course, while one is asleep is when that is most likely to occur, because it's a lot easier for the soul to just kind of.
Well, that's why I said, technically, if you're astral projecting, you're not asleep at all. It's a completely different thing.
Yes, your body is inert.
Your body is inert, but you are not asleep. You are very much mentally, consciously aware.
So in terms of that, I can't teach you how to do that because it's just something your soul decides to do when it feels like it.
Or you need to go through the process and study what, other people that have done it have done. That's, don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Study it, find out how people have made it happen.
If you just are trying to intuitively see or interact with distant environments, that's kind of like an extension of clairvoyance, which is just part of extending psychic skills. Anyway, okay. Monique.
Okay, what else?
That is good. Corrine, you should write them down.
Definitely.
Glad you have good dreams. Okay. Sabrina says, I want to travel the cosmos. Astrid is a galactic ambassador.
That sounds like a really cool sci-fi. I think we all want to have an experience like that. I have no idea how one would accomplish it intentionally.
While incarnated in this body.
Yeah. That's all I can say for it. I just don't know how anyone would accomplish it. Not that it's impossible. I know that it's not. There are stories of all kinds of amazing feats being done. I'm far from being a non-believer. I have not personally figured that one out, though. And what little bit of studying I have done on the topic has had very, very low yield as far as results go.
Max says, what is it when you are in a dream and you're telling yourself what to do as if you're awake? It's kind of like lucid dreaming.
That's like a trigger-based lucid dreaming. Something about the dream caused you to become more consciously aware of the fact that you're dreaming. So that is a level of lucidity.
Sabrina says, quite often I lift out of my body and then I have demons swoop down and attack me, so I have to wake up. That is scary.
Maybe you should stay in your body. It's a very vulnerable position to put yourself in.
There we go.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you had something to say about it.
Let's see. Astral projection, would love to experience this. Well, that goal I'm giving a few thousand years to reach. Max says, that happens to me quite often. You lift out of your body and demons attack you.
No.
Oh.
Like being aware of yourself and
Oh, okay.
responding to situations. Remember what he was talking about?
I don't know if it was in
5 seconds.
response to the other comment.
I mean, I certainly hope that most people aren't being attacked by demons when they try to leave their body.
Sabrina, it does sound like you should probably put some psychic protections in your bedroom in case. You should inbox me.
Sorry, I don't.
Fine.
What are those black shadows that run toward me screaming in my dreams? Are those demons?
Probably not.
Probably not, strictly speaking. Let's see, energy vampires, yes. There may be other things you're dealing with internally.
Started crafting, so I'm a little being bad here. Give me a sec. Sometimes I just like to be sure that I. I mean, you can keep talking for a minute. I said, give me a sec, not sit in silence. That's boring.
Okay. So my initial thought for Mac is that they may also represent other things you're trying to resolve within yourself, like fears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I took it as. Okay. Just double checking my reference here.
Max says, I never hurt no one. No, I don't think that's the implication of the dream.
No.
It has nothing to do with it.
Shadow figures usually represent facets of yourself that you have not accepted. So they're parts of you that you don't accept or you actively reject. And if they run towards you screaming, it's because your subconscious is saying, I'm a part of you, too damn bad. That's how I would interpret that. These shadow figures are things you don't like about yourself that are forcing themselves on you. I'm part of you.
You perceive them as frightening or extremely undesirable, like.
No. Yeah. I just wanted to double check a reference to make sure I was on the right page with that. Yeah. That's how I would take that, though.
All right, Angela. Well, welcome. And yes, there's some good info ahead earlier in the video. Pac says, damn. Yes,
Sorry.
I know. Bad news.
Bad news. It's another facet of you. You can't exercise the parts of you you don't like. I'm sorry. Oh, okay.
Sorry, I'm just thinking.
Again, this is just kind of like meandering thoughts. Dreams about past lives can be a bit hard to figure out because they will seem very real and like things have happened, but sometimes they'll be kind of muddled by the subconscious and include fantastical elements that would not have been present at the actual time, or have things that don't make sense from lack of knowledge and understanding. Just a random tidbit, because it's something that popped into my head. Sabrina says, sometimes I feel this divine pulsing energy flow into me from above, and it's really energizing. Is this what vivifies us when we sleep? I think that's just something particular to your situation. I would say inbox me about your situation and questions you have. I'd be open to discussing it in more detail. Yeah. Well, I'm kind of struggling with having so many things to talk about dreams, but we have really the basics. So we may be wrapping this to a close soon, unless people have more questions or specific dreams that they'd like some insight on.
I also do dream interpretation. So if anyone has a specific dream that they would like fully analyzed, I do that as well.
Mm-hmm. So to contact her, you can either message my page directly or go to The Kitchen Witch on Facebook and message her directly. That link is in the description of this video. Amanda says, I had a dream that people are walking up to me, not saying anything, but giving me their stuff, like their jewelry.
Ooh,
Interesting.
that's cool.
What do you think it means?
How would you?
So,
Or should I just do it?
oh no, I just don't want to step on your toes.
I'm getting hungry, so I'm getting a little distracted by my stomach.
You can go whatever you like, or I'll wrap this up.
Okay. I'm getting hungry.
So people are walking up to me, not saying anything, but giving their stuff, like their jewelry. I feel like it's one way I would take this. Of course, the meaning could be different depending on the context of the dream. Is that different parts of you and aspects of yourself have there's something special about them, like a kind of gift or talent or some kind of value. To dream that you receive jewelry as a gift indicates that you need to acknowledge and incorporate these corresponding qualities within your own self. Consider the type of jewelry and what it is made of. Yes. So it's like kind of
That was
being
all I was
invited
going to say.
to take it into yourself and accept these things. Positive dream, I think, but one worth kind of looking into.
My baby.
Amanda adds, it was in a dark room, so you may not be really very aware of these things, or they may be hard to see. Corinne says, sleeping, dreaming is an important aspect of our lives. Knowing more about the dream realm is vital to our well-being. How to understand dreams, types of dreams, and how to read them. Well, if you replay the video, we do discuss many of those things.
For anyone who doesn't know.
Dimmed lights, yes. Same. Max says, I enjoy talking to y'all because you can't talk to anybody about this stuff. Thank y'all a lot. You are welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome. It is really hard to talk to people about deep spiritual things and deep psychological things. I've often told people that dream interpretation is 50% knowledge, 40% therapy, and 10% intuition.
Yeah.
You have to be able to sympathize and understand what the other person is going through and be willing to listen. It's amazing how often dreams touch on parts of us that aren't easy to share.
Yes, they are quite personal and private by nature.
As to Amanda's dream, I would take it as because of the dim lights and everything, I would take it as you are being given opportunities to grow as an individual, grow your skills and talents, but you are in a position currently where you are unable to see these opportunities as they are being presented to you. So, what you need to do is become more aware of the opportunities being handed to you in that respect, in the way that they are opportunities for you to grow your ideas, your abilities, your talents, your skills. That's what jewelry usually represents, is taking in skills and talents that other people are sharing with you. So turn on the lights, pay attention to those opportunities as they're presented to you.
So we do have some more comments,
Mhm.
but Eliza would like to eat soon, so we may be wrapping this up soon.
I can always leave you here and
I
eat
would
all
say, unless
alone.
you're comfortable exiting on your own, that is up to you.
It's kind of up to you. Do you want food also?
Oh, I'm not hungry.
Well, then I'll just go eat.
All right.
I'll leave that to you then. I'll just go eat.
So I don't know if that'll be on much longer after that, but I don't want to keep you here
Yeah.
if you're hungry. All right.
Sabrina says, do people ever dream of each other mutually at the same time so as to create a kind of telepathic link?
Yes.
Yes, but
So much, yes.
Both partners may or may not be consciously aware of it.
And if you are consciously aware of it, then you're consciously aware of it. You know it's a sympathetic link and everything. I have someone like that I will we will wake up in the morning. I'll be like, hi, I dreamt about you. And they're like, yep, me too.
Meet so many different people in dreams. I have real relationships. It is weird.
I believe it.
The dreamscape is vast and strange.
It really depends on who you are and what you're dreaming, where you're dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I feel the pile of mushrooms call me.
All right, Melon.
I think I need to go eat mushrooms. Mushroom food!
Well, thank you for joining us and for all of your insight.
Yes, absolutely. I would love to stick around, but I think that if my stomach growls any louder, you guys will be able to hear it on camera. So I'm going to go.
All right.
That and the child is crying. It's always good to check on why the child is crying.
All right. Well, thanks, my love. We will see you again during the next live Q&A.
Yes.
I don't know,
Make
remember
sure
what the
to-
topic is, but it's
make sure to-
something.
Check out mushrooms, stuffed mushrooms for
Oh, yes. My fiance who just exited, also known as the Kitchen Witch, she is doing a holiday series, so a 10-day series where each day she shares a magical recipe for a different holiday dish. Altogether, they would combine to create one holiday feast. So if that interests you, check out the link in the description of this video for the Kitchen Witch Facebook page. Just to kind of figure out camera here. There we go. Yes. No. Today, she'll be cooking stuffed mushrooms.
feta stuffed mushrooms. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Yes. So she's gone to eat. I'm not hungry. I ate a rather heavy meal earlier. So I'm going to stick around a wee bit longer. Sabrina, I see that you messaged me. I will address your message and everyone else's messages at the conclusion of this video. Angela says, sorry if this has already been asked, but what is the best way to remember your dreams? I was convinced I didn't dream except on rare occasion for the longest, but that's not the case from what I've read. Indeed. We did address this earlier. Everyone dreams. It's a biological necessity. It happens every time you enter a REM cycle, which is multiple times every single night. The best way to remember your dreams, I mean, you can Google, there's plenty of good information, is to put forth the effort. Write down whatever you can remember, or even just the fact I dreamed, don't remember anything about it. Just kind of posting the camera. And it's just something you have to build. When you start recording your dreams, you just kind of give your mind the message, hey, I want to remember this, and it slowly starts to do more and more of that. Kareem, I'm glad that you enjoy the Kitchen Witch's work. I do as well, in a more immediate kind of way, as I get to eat all the things she makes. Alrighty, so yes, the topic is dreams and various aspects of them. We've kind of already discussed some basics about them. And again, it's a very broad thing. I've had dreams that just concern things I'm dealing with psychologically. I've dreamt of past life memories. I've had conversations or meetings with various kinds of entities. I've used dreams to obtain various kinds of information. What else? I don't know why it's so hard to sum this down. Sabrina says, I meet the most wonderful people in dreams. We start romantic relationships. Then I wake up and I'm so sad knowing I'll never see them again and that I'll forget about them. That's a very interesting thing. Without going through each dream and examining the imagery within it and so on, it's a bit hard to pinpoint exactly what is happening. Of course, it could be some extensive psychological process, or you could be interacting with people in the dreamscape or astral, or they could be memories of people you've loved in lives past. There are too many possibilities to say for certain. As mentioned earlier, I'm going off of the information that is related in the comments. I'm not intuitively reading. So it's just examining what you tell us about the dream. Such a large spectrum dream realm. Yes. Very broad. And there are a lot of methods of retrieving dreams or inciting different kinds of dreams. And really the thing is just figuring out what works for you and being diligent. Typically, it's not just going to come to you. And depending on what you're trying to do, some things can be very difficult. So I guess it's a bit hard to know what to talk about without being prompted by questions. I'm not sure if that makes sense. There's so many things I could say. So I guess for the most part, I'm kind of done relating information about dreams. So again, I highly encourage you to ask questions. Otherwise, I will be wrapping this video up soon. I guess something that comes to mind is sometimes, obviously you can have very positive or negative experiences in your dreams, and sometimes we can be very vulnerable when we're sleeping, very vulnerable when we're dreaming or in the dreamscape. And sometimes either entities or ghosts can infiltrate our dreams as well as other living people. And sometimes we can be observed, influenced, attacked, or so many different kinds of things. And it can be a bit alarming. Again, my inbox is always open, and so if there's some kind of weird thing going on, at the very least, I can tell you if your dream is it's just something that's happening in your head, or if there's something more going on and what to do about it if it is. Corinne says, need a good book for significance of dreams. I have never found one I'm happy with. That's why my earlier recommendation was dreammoods.com, and combining that with a study of Jungian psychology and spiritual symbolism. So again, I will type that website because I typed it in earlier. You will have to actually look up the symbols, I think, because the search bar is not working right now. dreammoods.com, Jungian psychology. Did I spell that right? Yes. And spiritual symbolism. And what comes primary is your own individual associations to everything. Individual associations and feelings. That would be primary. Crane says, neither have I. No, I'm not really happy with the dream dictionaries. So, yeah. I don't know that we have any more questions for today. If you feel like there is some kind of important message or information that's come up in a dream, or something really frightened you, again, you're welcome to message me that, or if you don't have someone to turn to, just need to take a moment to sit alone with yourself and really sense in your gut instinctually what direction you think the dream is going in and what the significance is. If you can't determine the exact information or what's being said, at least determining the gist of it. Different religions, different significations feel psychological so much. It can be having, for the most possible accurate interpretations, it's good to have a very broad range of references to draw upon, including your own associations and feelings that you had in the dream and what you associate to different images, colors, etc. The other most important thing is to have self-awareness. So you need to be able to be honest with yourself and be aware of yourself on a basic psychological level to be able to honestly ascertain what a dream is talking about, and to even determine if it's psychological or if something more is going on. If you do practice divination, I mentioned this before, it can help. You can rely on a tarot deck and ask it, what is the significance of this dream? Is this dream psychological, or is there something more happening? My most basic question I started is, what is this? And usually the cards are more or less clear to me if it is just something I'm dealing with, a message, or if it really happened on a other plane of some sort. Yes. So I hope that this has been helpful to people. Last call for questions. So I'll give you a minute to do that. If you don't want to ask on a public forum, or if you're catching the replay, just message me directly through the page, and I will try to get to you within a day or two. Hi, Nis. I know there's a bit of a lag, so I'll wait a moment longer. All right, it doesn't look like we have any more comments or questions, so I am going to conclude the video. I'd like to thank everyone for participating and for watching, and I hope you found this helpful and informative. If you enjoyed this live Q&A, please check out the events page on my Facebook page, Lysander Xanthus. I do about 2 live Q&As on different metaphysical topics a month. Going for in the future, they may be more frequent. We'll see. I also do moon rituals twice a month, once on the new moon, full moon. I also do a daily metaphysical report every morning, and I do reading videos like tarot and clairvoyant reading videos and other content. So if any of that interests you, I suggest you like and follow my page. If you'd like to support my work, completely optional. If you're inclined, you can send a donation to paypal.com/Lyxanthus. That's in the description. If you'd like more information about me, the Kitchen Witch, what's behind all this and what we do, I suggest you visit patreon.com/freedomdreamcoaching. That link is also in the description to find out more. So you can like follow my page and the Kitchen Witch page, which that link is in the description if you'd like to see more. There are last few comments. Claire says, I would really love to see my dad in a dream. He's crossed over. I suggest dream incubation. Corinne says, I'll talk to you in my dreams. Good evening. Indeed. So I hope you have a lovely rest of your day and a good weekend. And be blessed. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining.